cards. If I'm going to throw a punch, well, and you'll have a full deck. If I'm going to throw a punch to hit him, if I do this, it's useless. All right, I've flattened my base. I'm in a triangle, which is the protective position, not the attack position. My base is flattened, and I'm completely on balance. I'm going to throw a punch that's going to have effect. I'm going to put power into this, and I'm going to throw it in such a way, the easiest way to liken it is a rock on the end of a rope. If you take a rock on the end of a stick and poke someone, they go, ow. If you take a rock on the end of a rope and go, boom, you smack them up the side of the head because you have momentum. That mass of the rock is moving through space with momentum, and it has to complete its arc. Now, it may bounce off the head, okay? So, but primarily, a real punch, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass my hand over your shoulder here, just turn your head to the right as the hand passes you. Okay? All right? Now, if I'm going to punch somebody, smart like us. Keep like this. So if I'm going to throw a punch to take him out, I've got to throw it in such a way as I appear off balance, and he begins to go off balance. Now immediately, I've broken the triangle, I'm moving forward. I'm on a diagonal. In that square, if you have a diagonal, you have movement. It's what foreshortening is always about, it's moving in. Paul Gulacy takes a beautiful portrait of Bruce Lee in Masters of Kung Fu going, so all of his Kung Fu pictures are, because they're all still photos, okay? And they printed the least blurred still photo. So it's the photo with the least amount of movement. They're beautiful portraits, but he's not known for his great action. He's known for his great rendering skill. On the other end of that is Frank Springer, or the best you can imagine for an action shot is the father of Will Eisner. Eisner drew a gesture drawing. His energy went from the ground. If the spirit's throwing a punch, he's throwing a punch like this, and the guy getting hit's going like this. His direct child was Jack Kirby and Gil Kane. They were not interested in the finished rendering. They were interested in the story, and the story at this point was the violent action. So if you just take a marker and go over a Kane or an Eisner or a Kirby page, you will find maybe 5% of the lines are plumb. 5%, maybe 10. Most of them are on some kind of diagonal, drawing you into the picture, drawing you out, or moving you across. So if I'm going to punch him again, all right, now this is called a pass punch. It was developed, believe it or not, by John Wayne. Up till then, they actually used to hit each other in movies. John Wayne and Yakima Canute developed the idea that if I pass my hand either between the audience and the person being hit, and they turn their head appropriately, and then add a sound effect, all right, the impression is, because the camera lens has less depth perception than the human eye, the impression is that the person's been hurt. That is, so the pass punch was then developed in the early 32, 33. After that, punches changed in movies. They no longer did these, okay, until they got to Hong Kong, where they actually were hitting one another, but they still use the pass punch concept mixed with that. Anyway, so if I'm going to throw a punch at him, I can't, to make it have any energy, I mean, Bruce Lee used to do this 1-inch punch deal, and he'd go, boom, and he would throw it really tight, and he would bounce it back, okay, because if you hit an object, you're going to bounce off it. Objects in motions tend to stay in motion. Objects that come in collision with another object will veer off it. It's the billiard ball theory of life, all right? So if I'm going to punch him here, I have two options. I'm going to throw it with such force that it appears to go past him, i.e. it's hitting him on the cheek and pulling the cheek around, and I couldn't stop it because of the energy in the punch. Or I'm going to place it here and bounce it back. So it looks like it bounced off his cheek. So in this case, just nod your head this way when it comes in. All right, so it looks like it's hitting him on the cheek and bouncing back as his head's reacting. For a comic book panel, generally speaking, one of the things that most artists don't put in, Kirby did, Kane did, is, and actually, like I said, Eisner is the godfather. The guy getting hit you can see that the bone underneath the muscle is moved. He's got hit and his face is going, oh, that's good. He wasn't worried about distorting. Distortion was the purpose of the drawing. The story he was telling was not the beautiful portrait of the character. The story he was telling was the character taken out of that beautiful portrait with the hit. Some of them, Hitcher's a great artist, but his stuff is very static because it tends to be very photorealistic. The problem is you copy photos, you copy the glaring mistakes of photos. Somebody like Steranko could kind of take, because he started out as a disciple of Kirby and moved on to a disciple of Eisner, he was able to take a photo, kind of realism, but he started out with the cartoon drawing underneath. So his stuff is sort of like Paul Galassi and Gil Kane having a child. The action's there, but the rendering is there. So when you want to do it, when I'm throwing a punch at him, even though I appear to be on a straight line, what I'm actually doing is the straight line that's happening is coming from the floor. It's actually a diagonal line I'm creating. When I actually teach this to stage combat students, I call it a Captain America, because it looks like one of Kirby's shots of Captain America punching somebody. It would be, ugh! And he's throwing his whole body in it. It's the sort of punch that if I'm tossing it, I can't stop it if suddenly he's in the wrong space. It has to look like if I had missed him, I would have thrown myself to the ground. And in a comic book, obviously that kind of exaggeration is what you're looking for. In movies now, they do it with wires and with speeding stuff up and with CGI to create more of an exaggeration. But this still is the basic concept. You're taking off the square, you're taking off the triangle, and you're moving it on a diagonal edge. Yes.
He has to protect you if you have block.
Well, yes, you can block, you can parry. For stage, generally speaking, since we're actually, or film, we're cooperative, we're not opponents, we're partners, the block shouldn't occur. Actually, let me borrow you again, one more time. The last quick moment here. When I'm throwing a punch, for instance, if I'm throwing a punch for him to block it, all you're going to do is take your left hand and put your palm right here. Just do this. It's just sort of a queenly thing, right? All right? And just do that. Now the concept is going to do exactly the same thing. That concept is I'm actually not throwing the force toward his body. I'm throwing the force out like I'm casting. So if he didn't block it, I would end my punch out here. Boom. And he's throwing past me. The idea being, the actor shouldn't have to actually protect himself, because then he can't act. He's more worried about being smacked in the face. So the actor has to have a cone of protection about him, if you will, whereas the character might be afraid, but that's why it's called acting. Because if you really hit them, it's not acting, it's assault. My full name is Teal James Glenn. I'm a novelist, science fiction, fantasy writer. I have a couple of my books with me. If you have any questions, I'll be around later. Thank you very much. Enjoy the reading.